Welcome to Home, Space and Reason, a podcast about creating a home that thrives.
Hi there, I'm Christina Browning, your host. If you know your home could be so much more than it is, I discuss home functionality, aesthetics, and automation. I'm a realtor in Portland, Oregon, and a home functionality coach. I geek out on every subject imaginable regarding your home and yard, challenging you to think of your space differently to get the most out of every square foot. I pose questions for you to think through about your space and your reason. This podcast is all positive, offering you virtual fist bumps and celebrating every win. Remember, there's no such thing as perfect, but you can still aim for your best every day. Join me on social media by searching for the handle Space and Reason. During the fall and winter, what I'll call the off-season, I like to step back and think more broadly about our outdoor space, about my goals, from a values perspective, functionally, and from an aesthetic perspective. What is important overall? How has that shifted for us? How successful do I think my outdoor space was this past season? How much yard work and maintenance am I gonna want to do in this next season? Because I love examples, my brain just works that way. I'll tell you about how big picture thinking changed our yard fundamentally, and this could spur thought in your mind about some aspect of your outdoor space too. Now, our yard is so small that I took out the cheap vertical slats that the builder had put in as a free good neighbor fence. Not in between the houses, but just at the end of our yard, so that it didn't feel like a tiny box. It allowed the sight line to open up. Once we removed the vertical slats at the end of our yard, we could see the grass across the street. It allowed for a bigger sense of space, expanding how small our yard felt. It didn't feel like we were sitting in a box anymore. We put in horizontal wires so that the dogs or people couldn't just walk through, but it still allowed for that visual sight line to be more expansive. And then the sun came in more. Plants grew better. A 6-foot fence is, in essence, a wall. It keeps the birds and the bees from flying low. Replacing wood with wire means all of those things can fly more freely as they intended to. Fast forward a few years, my son turned 8, and we thought it would be a fun gift to give him a trail cam so he could monitor all the comings and goings at night of nature. And to our delight, we discovered opossums and skunks, chipmunks and hummingbirds all visited our yard when we were either away or when we were sleeping. Neighbor cats chased the occasional mouse. Because we had removed the wooden wall, it became a superhighway of sorts for things to travel and be natural again. To our delight, the skunks dug up the grubs from our lawns so we didn't have to treat our grass with any pesticides. Less pesticides meant bees made a home in the bee house, which meant our flowers grew bigger and happier with the pollinators living right next to them. Typically, a fence is only 6 feet tall. If privacy is truly your goal, a better long-term plan might be a natural wall of green, a hedge that can potentially grow way higher than 6 feet tall. Layers of foliage is going to be far more attractive than a wall of wood. Even a flat growing vine like jasmine growing vertically could create a wall of privacy while still allowing nature to be happy and thrive. If you need to keep dogs in, perhaps consider a low mesh fence that plants can grow through and eventually hide as if it doesn't exist at all. And now for some questions to ask yourself about your outdoor space and your reasons. Grab a scratch piece of paper and a pen. Question number 1. How did we use our outdoor space this past summer? And how has that changed from years past? Sometimes I find that we sat out front and had coffee every Saturday morning for an entire summer, and then the following summer we didn't. I think it's fun to think about, why was that? What changed? Which way did we like it? Question number 2. What areas of our outdoor space aren't being used and why? I think it's important as seasons change, as we grow, the things we do in and around our house habitually also change. So it's very interesting to be introspective about that. Question number 3. What areas can I leave the fallen leaves intentionally to provide an area of shelter for tiny creatures that we can't even see with our naked eye? It's good for nature to have tiny areas for hibernation and such. Where can we leave leaves? Question number 4. In the part of the world where I live, what types of plants attract hummingbirds? And can I plant them somewhere to attract more wildlife? Question number 5. Do I have room outdoors anywhere for some experimentation of sorts? Pull on the thread of something that I'm now interested in that maybe I wasn't interested in 2 years ago. Maybe it wasn't on my radar yet. A great example of this is the passion flower that I've had for 5 years, and I failed miserably at growing it with any sort of success. It was in a pot in one corner of my backyard at first. Then it was in the ground in another corner. It was in the front, and it only ever grew maybe 2 feet before the end of the season, and never once did it bloom. Exasperated by the whole ordeal because I can typically figure out a plant, but this one had me skunked. I put it in the most inhospitable location, the hottest, driest, rockiest flower bed in my yard. There, that'll teach you. And to my delight, it said, "Hold my beer." And it grew all the way up the side of our house, more than 12 feet tall, and it had only been half a summer. And so now my introspection is, wow, what other passion flowers might exist? Are there even different varieties? Should I create a string trellis? These are the sorts of threads that I'm thinking about for myself for the upcoming year. These are the sorts of things that can pique your interest differently as you live in your home over many years. Lessons are learned, which create new questions and sometimes create new interests. I wanted to draw a little moment of attention to episode number 72. It's all about low-key gathering ideas for your home. Hosting small gatherings with like 6 to 8 people can bring both the ambiance of a gathering while leaving intact the intimacy for conversation, whether people are sitting around a table, an island, or a fire pit. If you haven't listened yet, I'll link episode 72 in the show notes. Maybe plan a low-key gathering, right? Another good one is episode 62, Swedish death cleaning. I'll link that as well. Lord knows we all have so much stuff. This is one of the most popular episodes of the whole podcast. Lastly, I wanted to mention episode 117, meant to be referenced again and again because it helps you decide what gift to give someone. This is an episode I even listened to myself, and I'll link it here as well. If you happen to know someone in the market to buy or sell a home in the greater metro Portland, Oregon area, kindly send them my way. The finest compliment I could receive is the confidence of your referral. Subscribe to this podcast if you haven't yet, and then write a review because it lets others know that this is a podcast worth listening to. Thanks, friends, for sitting in on this conversation about creating a home that thrives. I'll meet you back here for the next episode.